when Elon Musk realized he wasn't going to be in control of who would be his paymaster at NASA, that's when the relationship started to come apart.
There's been some big developments on the sort of personality front in the Trump court over the last few weeks, which I can't resist asking you about. Musk gave Trump hundreds of millions of dollars, but the wheels seem to be coming off that friendship pretty rapidly. What's going to happen next?
Well, I think what happened here, to understand, is Elon Musk was given free rein to run through the government, and there may well be hidden financial relationships between Musk and Trump. Trump refuses to file his legally required Office of Government Ethics statement listing all his assets and liabilities and income. And one has to wonder, why? I mean, the ones he filed in the past had lots of fictions in them. But why is he refusing outright to do this? And remember that he owes over $600 million in 2 civil court cases he's appealing. So it could well be that Trump, somewhere in the background, has a guarantee to pay these from Elon Musk. Musk came in with this fictional government agency. There is no DOGE in the law. And the first thing he did virtually was to fire the inspectors general who were looking into his violations of his government contracts. He removed lawyers and contracting officers and other people who were meddlesome in his huge military-related, communications-related, and other contracts. He then told Trump who he wanted to run NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, where his SpaceX gets many billions of dollars. And Donald instead went with a different person. And when Elon Musk realized he wasn't going to be in control of who would be his paymaster at NASA, that's when the relationship started to come apart. What we've seen since then is 2 grown men who on the inside are 13-year-old boys. I've often described Donald's life as the nightmare version of Groundhog Day, where you have to relive the same day 10,000 times, but it's a nightmare because Donald's trapped emotionally in being a 13-year-old boy. Just listen to how he talks about women, and you can see how immature he is in this regard. And Musk, who grew up a prince who could do no wrong, effectively a South African prince, he has this same narcissism that Donald does. And so once this came apart and they began attacking each other, it's going to expose the paved over or painted over fissures in the Republican Party, particularly the U.S. Senate.
And the bit that I find very interesting is that normally at the first, and you said it earlier on, Trump has a great instinct for knowing when he's being attacked, and he sort of comes out swinging. And yet, with Musk, since he started attacking the big, beautiful bill, and he said things that are even more inflammatory in the last 48 hours, and yet the White House are incredibly conciliatory, which stands as an anomaly in terms of their normal tactics.
Right. Well, that's one of the reasons I think that there's some financial relationship that we're not seeing with Musk or some other secret out there. The big bomb Musk dropped was to say that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the American quote-unquote financier. I think he was running basically an extortion racket where he got wealthy men sexual favors that would be illegal, juveniles, and then
he's well known on this side of the Atlantic too. There's been some pretty high-profile names associated with him here.
Yes, there certainly have. And Trump had promised during the campaign to release all the Epstein files, and he hasn't done so. And I think, it's reasonable to speculate as to why that hasn't happened and is not going to happen under this administration. It'd be interesting to see if those files even survive this administration. But that bomb was a real signal, and you would think Donald would cut all ties at that point. No. Donald keeps trying somehow to figure out, is there a way to reconnect with Elon Musk, because he recognizes Musk is a real serious threat to him. And this is going to not go away in the short run. It may get papered over. And by the way, Musk is not wrong about this. This big, beautiful bill is one of the ugliest pieces of legislation in American history. I mean, literally, it takes healthcare away from 16 million poor people. It reduces the child tax, expanding the child tax credit, but not for the working poor or the poor, only for middle class, upper middle class people like me and wealthy people. It does a whole bunch of things that basically take from the poor and give to the rich. It's reverse Robin Hood. And Musk is not interested in that. He doesn't care about that. We know that from all of the lawsuits against him and other actions about mistreating his workers, unsafe working conditions, ignoring pay requirements and whatnot with people. But that, even with that said, he's quite right. This bill is very problematic, and it's got problems in the U.S. Senate. And by the way, think of the insanity of, oh, this debt is going to ruin the country, Donald says. It's too much debt. We have to get rid of the debt. By the way, please borrow another $2.5 trillion so that the wealthiest people in America can pay less in taxes. It is, well, I'm laughing, but it's really sad and tragic.
Yes, I mean, look, it's a cautionary tale that the populists all over the liberal democratic West are doing very well in opinion polls, but the reality is that that sort of populism is very hard to deliver when you actually have the finances of a nation in your hands. David,
Just one point on that. I wrote a best-selling trilogy in America early in this decade, perfectly legal, about the tax system, Free Lunch, about all these hidden subsidies where big corporations don't get their capital, in many cases, from the market. They get it from taxpayers by starving the schools and the police, and then the fine print about thwarting competition. The reason we're seeing this rejection of democracy, not just in the U.S., but in other countries, some of which have brief histories of democracy, some long, is this creation of economic systems that ensure the very wealthy will get richer and richer and richer, and do it by taking from children, the disabled, the elderly, the sick, from people who can't fight back. And so naturally, people are going to say, this isn't working. That's how Hitler rose to power. When people realized, I have no control over my economic life anymore, you need someone. And Donald comes along and says, I alone can save you. And America's internet is filled with images of him as God or godlike on this claim that he alone can save people. And the real problem is the system, the campaign finance system, which makes, as I've interviewed more than 100 members of Congress and the Senate about this, your real constituency are your donors. That's a very narrow class of very wealthy people. It's not the people you were elected by. And until we get a handle on this, we recognize that the purpose of government is not to take from those with less to give to those who already have more than enough. We're going to continue to see a weakening of support for democratic values.
David, it's a cautionary note on which to part, but thank you so much for sharing so many really interesting insights into Donald Trump and thoughts on the way the world's going. I've really enjoyed talking to you. David K. Johnson. Well, thank you. David K. Johnson, Pulitzer award-winning author on Trump and on the failures of liberal Western democratic economies. I will be on my way to buy his books immediately after we have finished recording. You've been watching Superpowers, the future of global security, here on Times Radio. For more of Times Radio's brilliant geopolitical content, make sure you subscribe to the Times Radio YouTube channel. But for now, goodbye.